Penn State Penitentiary. You've got places like the Bel Air House, very well known for their hauntings and very great places. Don't get me wrong, but the Southwest is very void of a place like this that investigators can go, and that was one of the reasons, especially for Arizona, because there's very little here. There are places to investigate, but they're operating hotels and you always have external influence. And we thought we need a place for Southwest investigators, or anyone for that matter, to go where they don't have any external influences as far as sound, as far as interruptions, at least from anyone else within their group. And when we saw this place and then worked out the negotiations and partnerships and everything else, this is an opportunity for paranormal investigators to go and actually get a 10-hour investigation, 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. Alone. They get let in, they get floor plans, they get a real brief tour so they don't get lost. I mean, it's 30,000 square feet, so it's a good sized building. And then they're on their own. They get to investigate, do whatever, bring any equipment they want, and they get a true night of capturing whatever they can capture. So it's exciting.
Do the spirits there have a particular type of interaction they seem to prefer, as far as you can tell?
Well, what I have noticed is, and we haven't even quantified yet how many are there,
Right.
but I mean, we've identified probably 15, 16 different ones already. And I guarantee you there's a lot more there. We are in the process right now of producing a short film to release for the Copper Canyon Paranormal Research Center. And of course, we've done history. We've gone through old newspaper articles, trying to find out, deaths that happened, all sorts of the history, gunfights, and this hospital literally would take anybody who came. And at that time, it was at the top places to go for medical care. So people from Tucson came, people from Phoenix came down to this small town just due to the medical abilities that this hospital had. But there's such a rich history and such a long-standing historical interaction with this building that literally thousands of people died either from mining accidents, gunfights, all sorts of. So the amount of spirits that are actually or could be present in this building, we haven't even been able to touch those numbers yet.
Well, I just can't wait, because the more research you do and the more knowledgeable you are, the more people will be able to perhaps have a conversation by name or ask
exactly.
if that, because I think one of the saddest things is when a spirit has passed and nobody knows who they are and they're still there trying to have a conversation. I was somewhere recently that had three little girls who haunted it. Two of the children's names were known, and nobody had a clue about the third little girl. And I think that she was so reticent because no one spoke to her. There was no direct interaction by name with her because there's no record of her name. And I think that's sad.
Very, very. And one of the things we noticed, and I don't know whether I gave you these EVPs or not, but we had at least 3 separate EVPs where they gave first and last name. Now, we have not had an opportunity yet to do the research on those names, but that's the very fascinating thing to us about when you can correlate getting an EVP and then historically researching that name and finding a connection. Mm-hmm. That adds to the support. But you're absolutely right. But normally when we go in and we're doing EVP sessions, we may get a name, a first, but to have them literally come forward and give first and last name as their first statement, that was just amazing to
That's
us.
unheard of. Has that happened with
Exactly.
you anywhere else?
We've gotten names before, but never that direct. I mean, like I said, this building sat basically empty for the last 38 years, and maybe that had an effect that when people were actually then available and they knew that they could get a message across or communicate. I mean, they fully took advantage of that and said, "Hey, I'm so and so," and that name is very clear. And I'm not sure if I gave you one of those or not,
You did
but if
not.
not,
I don't see a title
I,
like
I
that.
yeah, I may not have just for sensitivity to whatever name that is without having done the research yet.
Right.
But yeah, we do have them, and it's amazing.
Well, what you sent is in its own right, but I think that's the coolest thing because I've never
Yeah,
had that reaction.
yeah, this was unique, and like I said, there's so many things about this building that just um, is just fascinating. And every time we go in, something else occurs. And I'm going to tell you this story real quick, and then maybe we can play those other EVPs that I had sent over. But we were when we're working on putting together this short film video that we're going to release for it. We had taken this producer in and we were showing him around, and we were trying to decide where to film, what rooms to use, and he was telling me, I love working on this project. But he said, I'm very skeptical, and I said, that's okay. We're not here to convince you of anything. Well, he lasted about 13 minutes in the building. He got touched. We were standing down the on the first level floor, and he comes up behind me, puts his hand on my shoulder, and he goes, "Do you hear that?" And I said, "Yeah, I do hear that." He goes, "What is that?" And my wife says, "That's a baby crying." And he goes, "Exactly." He goes, "There's no babies in here." I said, "No, there's no anything in here." He goes, and it lasted a good 2 minutes, and it kept crying, and it literally shook him up. And when he went back to do the other filming that we were doing, it was at night, and he's texting me, and he's like, "I'm going to be down there tomorrow night." I'm like, "Okay, that's fine." He's like, "Well, I'm going to be filming after." I'm like, "Okay, that's fine." He goes, "Dude, are you coming or not? I don't want to be in the building alone."
Well, so he's not a skeptic anymore.
No, no, not anymore. Not anymore. But it was interesting because he was so blown away by what he had heard that although we weren't investigating at the time, he literally recreated the event of what happened, and it's interesting to hear because he did such a good job recreating it that it gives me chills because I remember standing there hearing it, and so that was really interesting. But anyway, yeah, let's if you can, let's play some of those other EVPs I sent over just so people can get an idea of what I'm talking about how these EVPs come across.
Okay, well, how about the don't scare them?
Yeah, that's a good one.
You guys,
That is so cool. Here we go again.
you guys,
That is so amazing. And now that was a male.
Right. And this is a funny story, but we know that voice, and that voice is not from that location.
What?
This is a spirit that actually resides. Well, I say resides because that's where we've picked them up for the last 5 years, is at the Hotel San Carlos. And his name is Christian. And when I heard that, I'm like, and then I played it for my wife. She goes, "That's Christian." And I said, Exactly. So I can't explain it. I don't know, if he if he showed up there, if there was something he was protecting us from, but it's absolutely fascinating. That's not the first time that's happened. We've had a spirit show up at the Bel Air house that we had the recording and could recognize the voice. And but yeah, this one isn't. wasn't a resident of that hospital. So that was very interesting to us.
Well, that's interesting. Maybe he was letting you know not to scare the spirits. Maybe he felt like there was somebody that might be feeling vulnerable with having people show up like that, right?
Well, that's a very good point, because when you hear the responses, the interpretation is multifolded, because you're not sure who they're talking to. You could be absolutely correct. He could be talking to us saying don't scare the spirits. He could be talking to the spirits saying don't scare them. We don't know. But
Right.
You're absolutely right. And there's another EVP that I sent you that we could probably play next,
Okay.
where we're literally asking them to communicate. Now, this one's a little harder to hear, and headphones may be recommended to hear it, but it is on my page if anyone wants to go back and take another listen. But we're literally asking them, we're here, communicate with us, and they literally ask, are we safe?
Yes, this one's amazing. So, hopefully everyone has their headphones on or their buds plugged in, and here we go.
You don't have to be scared. You can come out and talk to us.
That sounded very trepidatious. Let's go ahead and play that again.
Right.
You don't have to be scared. You can come out and talk to us.
Yes, that's, as I said, they sound nervous. They're not sure that they want to do that.
Exactly. And like I said, that was the first night we had ever stepped foot in there. And so your comment about the last EVP about don't scare them. I mean, it very well, he could be talking to us, meaning don't scare the spirits that are in that building, because everyone else who heard it is always like, oh, how nice, they're not going to scare you. But you're absolutely right. I think it's the other way around. I think that he's saying to us, don't scare the spirits that are in the building, which is just absolutely fascinating to me.
Well, I mean, because they hadn't seen people. And all of these are from your first night. So
Right.
maybe Christian travels with you more than you know, and he was reading. That's kind of what I do. Okay. My gift is not,
Right.
but is just kind of reading intent of spirits. And that's what I feel, is that they were excited to have people to communicate with, but you had equipment and they didn't know what that was. So maybe that was what he did.
I would completely agree with that hypothesis, because that's the exact feeling we had too. Was that, yeah, he was talking to us, or them, meaning the spirits that are in there. And I think you are right on track with that hypothesis.
So just a thought, but I think it's so obviously you made them comfortable, because they worked with you through the rest of the night, and they worked with you through everything else that you've done thus far. Out of curiosity,
That
go ahead.
and that's very true, and much more to be done. And like I said, it's time limitations that are holding us back at the moment, which will free up as we get some of this other stuff concluded. But there's so many more questions we want to ask. There's so many more tests we want to do. But yeah, they have been receptive. They have been kind. We have not felt threatened. There was one.
You know what? You're going to have to stop right there, because that's a great stopping point, because I can't wait to hear the rest of this. But we have a 2-minute break. We'll be back on the flip side, guys. 2 minutes.